And that's what I realized I was doing is by default, I kept resorting back to these old structures and ways of being when I wasn't the person that made those structures work anymore. And so that was one of the pieces of wisdom is like, stop going back to the old structure and start looking at how do I create new structures that work with who I am now.
When you look, everything is ordinary. When you see, everything is extraordinary. Welcome to Eye of Rose, a space for deep, solid conversations with yourself, with spirit, and with the unseen. I'm Rusnaini, an intuitive guide here to help souls remember who they truly are, to heal and awaken the truth already living inside. This podcast is for those walking the path between worlds, where healing, intuition, and inner wisdom rise from within. Here, we don't chase perfection. We return to the essence, to soul, the part of you that always knows. I'm glad you are here. Welcome back to the Eye of Rose podcast. Today's episode is truly special because I'm sitting with Brandon Lucero, a messaging expert who has helped thousands of entrepreneurs and coaches build thriving and heart-led businesses. He's the founder of New Generation Entrepreneur Podcast and the CEO of the New Generation Mastery, a program that teaches people to communicate in a way that not only sells, but also deeply impacts lives. Brandon grew his own business from $0 to $1 million in just 9 months, thanks to what he calls his secret sauce, balancing masculine drive with feminine flow. He's also been one of my mentors, and I can tell you firsthand that his wisdom is life-changing. In this conversation, Brandon opens up about his personal journey, from co-parenting and self-love to finding balance within and discovering clarity through silence and inner work. This conversation is full of wisdom that will touch your heart and spark new possibilities. I hope you enjoy. Brandon, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for accepting my invitation. I'm so honored and deeply grateful that you say yes. Thank you. How are you?
I'm honored to be here, and I'm glad you asked me. I love doing interviews and being on podcasts. It's fun. So thank you for having me.
Thank you. How are you doing?
Good. Yeah, I'm doing good. Doing a lot better than I have the last couple of years, and I feel very good today. So yeah, thanks for asking.
Do you remember that I shared with you about my dream? This was a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
In my dreams, I visit you. I can visit your home, and you said, "Hey, don't mind the mess." And you said that I'm in the middle of remodeling. Remember that I shared with you,
Mm-hmm.
and I didn't know what happened at that time. I just knew that dream meant something. I knew that dream was because it's so lucid. I can feel it, everything in that dream. And I reached out to you. I was just like, no, this is something that I have to share. I felt called to share. And you said, it's so interesting that you dream about me in that way because I am in the middle of remodeling so many things in my life.
Yeah, I know. I do remember that. And it was very interesting too, because there was other people around the same time that told me they had a dream that I was in. And it was a very similar concept. It wasn't like they weren't saying remodeling, but it was like, this is happening over here. I'm like, oh, it's all of it was like very relevant. And yeah, I was going through a remodeling, so to speak, of my life and the way my life was and looked like on a lot of different levels. Like I would say, to be honest with you, I don't think there's anything that is the same, really, besides like I still have 3 kids and I have a business, and that's like the only thing that's still the same in my life right now. So yeah, it was very interesting, and it was like very comforting, I think, also. So I appreciate you sharing. It was like very comforting knowing that like, okay, what I'm going through probably has a deeper meaning and purpose behind it. if other people are like picking up on it and sending messages to me. So yeah.
Yeah. And this is the second dream that I had about you, that we were watching the movie in the movie room, and there's that one medium-sized TV that we all watch together. But for some reason, it clicked to me in that moment that, yeah, we watch the same thing, but we see what we are watching through our lenses.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that moment, it really hit me, because like we can see things, the same thing, but the way I perceive it and the way you perceive it, it's complete different.
Yeah.
Because I was trying to watch that TV right in front of you, and I also move my body behind you, try to see what you are seeing.
Mm-hmm.
And for some reason, I see the same thing. And then we talk about it, but I completely forget what was the topic. But just something simple and silly at the same time, like
Yeah.
that. Yeah, that really a good um
I mean, it's a
good dream.
powerful dream, and it's a good, like, I think even that concept is something not a lot of people really understand,
Hmm.
where like an event will happen or something happens right in front of us, and we, because of our past traumas or our purpose or our dharmas or what, for whatever reason, we all see it completely different. And I think that's where a lot of like miscommunication and fights and like arguments come from, because then everyone starts to argue and fight for their perspective, not understanding that it was just one viewpoint of a billion. And no one on this planet sees everything the exact same way as everyone else. And
Yeah.
like without that awareness, or let's just put it this way, with that awareness of that, I think it allows for a lot more empathy and compassion and being able to listen and have better communication, because you understand that the way you see things isn't right or wrong. It just is a way. And then when you
Mhm.
understand that, you stop fighting for the need to be right all the time, and you start to fight for a need to understand like where someone else is at. And I think like it's a beautiful dream. Like it's a beautiful dream with a beautiful concept. And I'm glad that like I got to be a part of that in Dreamtime. It's pretty cool.
Thank you for visiting me in
Yeah.
Dreamtime.
Yeah.
I love that. Your post like 2 months ago, was
Mm-hmm.
that 2 months ago? You share about on your walk. You always have that wisdom. Every time that you walk, you share your wisdom. And this hit me when you said, when things no longer working in the same way like it used to, it's invitation to I can't remember what exactly you
I
said,
know
but
what you're
it's
talking about. Yeah.
invitation that you to change.
Yeah, it was actually so part of everything that I've been through over the last couple of years, a big part of it, like obviously there was a divorce that happened, there was the moving out of state again, there was, but like also at the same time there was this period in the business where like things weren't working the way that they used to. And also it was like my passion for it wasn't the same as what it used to be. Like I just, like there were periods where I'm like, I don't even know if I want to do this anymore, and not like sell this offer or teach messaging, because that's what I do is I teach messaging and communication. But it was like, I don't even know if I want to be in this online space anymore. Like I kind of just want to open up a coffee shop, just like not have to coach people, not have to like market myself. Like I just want to make a good cup of coffee every day and like have this small little team. Like that sounded so amazing to me. And so because nothing was working. And then I started talking to like James, one of my buddies, James, and then Catherine, and they're both like in the space as well. And they both work with the same shaman that we work with. And so they were having the same feeling of like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore, which is a big deal because this is all we've done. And for 10 years, we've all three of us have built these amazing businesses with huge audiences. And it was a big, and it was like, we were all like, I don't, that there's something more to this. We can't all three be thinking and feeling the exact same thing for no reason. Right. And so we ended up having a retreat with our shaman and with DX. And one of the things that he had said on this retreat was the reason why things aren't working anymore is because you have changed so much over the last 6 months, 2 years. Like all three of you have, like Catherine had a baby. She became a mom, and she's like, I just want to be a mom. I don't want to do this, like, this manifestation babe thing anymore. Right. And like James was like, if I have to talk about an opt-in page one more time, I'm going to like bang my head against the wall. He's like, there's like something more. Right. And so we've all, and so James went through like a lot of change as well over the last couple of years. And so he said that the problem is you guys have changed, and you keep going back to the old structures of what made your life and business work. And you keep resorting back to these old structures, but these structures that existed that were working for you, they required a certain type of person to make them work. And he's like, and you're not that person anymore. You've changed and you've grown. So you need new structures in your life, like new ways of being, new ways of operating, everything new has to change in order for life to work to the new person that you are. And that could be something like your frequency goes up. So like that means your employees or your team, like they may go away because they're not operating at the same frequency as you anymore. And he's like, or it could be the offer or the quality of student, like all of this stuff needs to change. And that's what I realized I was doing is by default, I kept resorting back to these old structures and ways of being when I wasn't the person that made those structures work anymore. And so that was one of the pieces of wisdom is like, stop going back to the old structure and start looking at how do I create new structures that work with who I am now.
Yeah. And it seems like working for you because you look very different.
Thank you.
Very different.
Yeah. I mean, in the business, I wouldn't say we're totally there yet, but there's like a lot of different movement. But I do think the ways in which I'm like operating and living my life and how I'm showing up for like my kids and, how I'm looking at life and like old patterns that I'm getting rid of and stuff like that is a lot. Like it's in a very good way, in a very positive way. It's just like, I feel like I'm flowing a little bit better. And although I'm not there yet, I have a lot more moments of like, just feeling really powerful and like knowing this is where I'm going to go. Whereas the last year and a half, it was basically none of that, like 0% of that. So now I'm like more and more of my life is becoming into like stepping back into that power for sure.
Yeah. And I see you as such an example of someone who balancing the feminine energy with masculinity. And not many men able to do that. And with you, the way that you show up in the world, it's the balance between those both worlds because you are very intuitive. And the way that you share your wisdom, I can tell that you are not saying things just to say it. You really tune in and then speak it out loud because you touch people's heart. Like I can listen to you all day because I can just feel it. It's not coming from, the masculinity, like, it's not like that. You are just flowing. I love that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, and I think that is the secret sauce that a lot of people don't get. They don't get the blending of the masculine and the feminine. And it's not, I wouldn't even say like, I do agree with you that it is hard for men to balance that, but I also think it's hard for women to balance that too. Like it's hard because I feel like either you don't, a lot of women sometimes don't want to show up in the masculine because they want to like, it's too like, cause then it puts you into the field with men who are like overly and then it could be almost a little intimidating, or sometimes I've had experiences with women being like not wanting to be overly masculine because they want to like still be attractive to the man, right? Like usually men don't want a super masculine woman. And masculine, I don't, and I know you get it, but for anyone who's listening, I don't mean when I say masculine, I don't mean like big, strong. It's more of like that masculine energy of like always taking action, always taking control, always leading, like that sort of thing. And so it's hard for both, but that is the secret sauce, is that I think that when we want to create, when we want to manifest, is a blending of being into that intuition and into the silence and in tune with yourself and learning to love yourself and understanding the purpose and your dharma, which is all that feminine energy. But at the same time, I could sit there and want to manifest a powerful business that impacts millions and like all this money or whatever it is. But it requires the masculine energy of like taking action and taking charge and becoming a leader. And then like, but then also being a leader also means like listening to your employees and being in tune with their emotions, which is the feminine. So there has to be this like beautiful balance, and manifestation creation literally requires both of them. And I don't think a lot of people really get that. And
Yeah.
so, and not only does it require creation need that, but I think your own like health needs it too, because you could be in the masculine, build this amazing business and just be like a jerk and like burn yourself out and not listen to your employees and like, and then it's just exhausting,
Right.
So I think life just needs both.
Yeah. And the biggest block that I see in people is that they associate feminine energy and masculine energy with gender, with sex.
Yeah, it has nothing to do with that.
It has nothing to do with that. This is pure energy that coming from ourself, from within, but they associate it as, okay, as a woman, I have to be feminine. As a man, you have to be masculine. It's like, yeah.
Yeah.
It's completely different.
It has nothing to do with gender. And I think a lot of times too, it's hard for guys who like when you say tap into the feminine, because then they view it as like weak or like, I don't like it's like a
they get offended.
Yeah. It's like a threat to my identity or being a man.
Yes.
Nothing to do with that. Like, nothing at all.
Yes.
Like, trust me, if you're in your feminine and like talking to someone about their emotions, you're still going to be a dude. Like,
yes.
You know what I mean? Like your manhood will still be there.
It's just pronounced.
Yeah.
Yes, I hear you. Wow. So how's the changes now, like from the old to the new?
Well, you mean just in general or in a specific area or all of it?
It's really in life in general, as a dad, as a single man and a business owner. You run multi-million-dollar business, and how that affecting in your life?
I think, I mean, I could talk for a long time on this topic, but I think how things are going now and the biggest shifts and changes is that, number one, I think through the last couple of years, I have really learned on a whole different level of like how to truly listen to someone else's perspective and like have really hard conversations with a really just big desire and need for curiosity instead of defensiveness. And so I think that has, as a father, it's been really, really great. And I'll just give you an example. So I actually started dating someone, and that's been a really amazing experience as well for a lot of different reasons. But one of the things that I do is because I love coffee and I have like a whole coffee setup. I have like a coffee shop in my house. Like I have like multiple grinders and like an espresso machine, like all. So one of the things I do is I make coffee, and it was the person that I'm dating. Her kids were going to the same school as my kids last year. So I'd always make coffee myself and her, and I'd bring it to school. And that was just something that I did. And so I'd show up, here's your coffee. So the other day, like, because it's summer, so if I had to go run errands or something, I would actually make her coffee and just drop it off at her house. So my kids one morning were like, why do we have to do that every day? Like, why do we have to go to her house and bring her a coffee? And my first instinct was like to get defensive. I was like, well, guys, we don't do that every day. Like literally it's like once a week, maybe. And they're like, no, it's every day. And I could see this like argument starting to boil. I'm getting defensive because I don't think it's a big deal. They're like, there's something going on with them. But then in that moment, I realized I had the awareness go like, oh, you're getting defensive. They're obviously feeling something, because logic is not here. Like logic is, we don't do this every day. And so I just got curious. And I was like, guys, I'm actually just very curious. Why does dropping coffee off in the morning really bother you? And they're like, because we don't want to do it. And I was like, I know, I understand that, but like, why don't you want to do it? Because you like her and you like her kids and you like spending time with them. And then they go like, I don't know why it bothers us, but it does. And then so I just got really in tune with what might be going on. And then so I just asked them a question, and I said, guys, it doesn't make sense because we don't do it every day. And it's just a quick 2-minute thing. But what I'm thinking might be happening is that maybe we've been spending a little bit too much time with her and her kids, and you guys really want more time just with me. And they go, yeah, that's what it is. And I said, great, then we can do that. Like we will just have way more time with just you, me. And then from here on out, like I will ask you, do you want to do this? Or if you guys want to spend time with them, then tell me, and that we could do that. Or
Mm.
if it comes up or we get invited to go do something with them, I will, instead of just saying, hey, let's go do this, I will ask you if you guys want to do that, or if you rather have time with just me today or this
Oh,
week or whatever it is.
yeah.
And they were like happy and they were excited and they were like, they felt heard and they felt understood. But that came from me having the awareness and the understanding of like, we should just get curious as to why this is
Yes.
happening instead of defensive. So like going through this past year, that has been where I've been operating with everyone,
Yes.
students, team members, my kids. And I feel like I've done a decent job of that more than the average person always, like
Mhm.
not always, but like over the, like ever since been on my spiritual journey. But because of what I had to go through this last year, it's at a whole nother level. And I think that brings so much more lightness, because now instead of like this argument and defensiveness and my kids are like giving me a hard time for something that brings me joy, like instead of being in that place, it's more in a place where I just like they have a perspective, they have
Yeah.
this viewpoint, and I understand it now.
Mhm.
And then you avoid all of that, you avoid all the fights and the arguments and like feeling misunderstood and
Mhm.
unheard. And so like that has been like the biggest shift. And then living in that space has also allowed me to figure out like the new direction of the business and where I want to go, and a lot of that stuff. So that, I think that has brought a lot of like just weight off my shoulders and lightness, where things feel smoother, and it feels like there's more depth in my life now,
Right.
which is great. Like my kids and the relationship I have with them is, even it was already great. I was already a great
Mhm.
dad, but now it's on a different level.
Next level, yeah.
Yeah.
And remind me again of how old the kids?
5, 9, and 11.
Yeah, you are amazing for already open up that space for them, because I see a lot of parents are so afraid to talk to the kids in that way, like talking deep about anything, about everything,
Yeah.
because in their head it's like, "Oh, no, my kids are not ready, my kids are still too young." And I keep telling them like, no, it's not that, like it just how you see it, but the kids are way wiser than we thought they are.
They are. And I like, even with my son, there's times where like I have these conversations with him and I'm like, I don't think he's going to get what I'm saying, because most adults won't even get what I'm saying. And then he just like gets it right away. And I'm
Mhm.
like, here's a perfect example is the other day we were in the car and my son did something and I was like, oh, thank you for doing that. And he goes, was I good, dad? And I said, yeah, you were good. He's like, was I a good boy? And I said, yeah, but that caught me. Like
Mhm.
there was something that didn't sit right with me, and I'm like, why does he have this need to want to be a good boy? And so I'm like, I don't like that. Like, obviously, that was my own internal thought. It wasn't. I didn't
Mhm.
say that to him. And I just said, Will, why do you want to be a good boy? And he goes, yeah, I want to be a good boy. And I was like, why? Like, who told you need to be a good boy? And he's like, well, don't you just want to be a good person? I'm like, yeah. And then I said, but whose version of good are you living by? I think that's the most
Mm.
important thing. And he goes, well, what do you mean? And I said, well, if mom says like, this is what a good boy is, and then I say, this is what a good boy is, and then your teacher says, this is what a good boy is, and then your grandfather or grandma says, this is what a good boy is, and they're all different versions of what a good boy is, who's
Mhm.
right and who's wrong? He goes, I don't know.
Mm.
And I said, so then what's the most important version? Whose version is the most important? And he goes, I don't know. And I said, Will, it's your version. Like your version of what a good boy is and what good means, as long as it's you in the core of what you want and it's not influenced by anyone. Like you could say, like, look at dad's version of good and say, I like that piece, I'm going to take that. And I like, look at mom's version of good and take that little piece. And I said, but then that's you forming your own version of good and being true to yourself. Like,
Yes.
I feel like most adults wouldn't even get to the point where they question, like, whose version of good am I living by? They don't
Mhm.
even question that.
I
And then,
know.
then you try to explain it to them. It's this person's version or it's society's version, and they don't get that. But he like got it
Right.
in 2 minutes, and I was just blown away. Like he's so wise,
Yeah.
like it's crazy the understanding that kids will have because they haven't been conditioned in the way adults have.
Right.
So it's
Yeah.
they're way more open than we think they are.
Yeah. It's so beautiful. So I'm curious to know about you. Were you always been spiritual, or were you transition from religious person to spiritual person?
So I grew up. I actually think religious and spiritual are one and the same. They're just
Right. But we
different versions of it. It's just not a dogma or like a set thing. So I think, well, not I think this. So I grew up Catholic, like I was baptized, and I know I don't look it, but I'm actually half Mexican, and so like the Mexican culture is very like my dad's side of the family is from Mexico. If you look at my dad, he's like dark skin, dark hair, dark eyes, like all of that. My mom is blonde hair, blue eyes, light skin, and so there's four boys in my family. I'm the oldest of four. I obviously look very white and just like not from Mexico. My brother underneath me looks like he's from Mexico. My brother underneath him is like white, and then brother underneath him looks like he's from Mexico.
Oh
So
my
you would never know.
God. Yes.
Yeah, so you would never know. But obviously in the in the Mexican culture, like Catholic is the religion, the dominant religion there.
Yeah.
So that I grew up that way. But I remember sitting in church going like, I don't like that doesn't I don't like this. It just does, I just don't get it. It doesn't make sense. And then I remember thinking like Jesus was like he was crucified, and like the Catholic religion started like 2000 years ago, and I'm like, but humans have been here for way longer than that. So like why does that the truth of like humans in origin, like none of it made any sense to me. And then it also just didn't sit well with me. And then my dad actually left the Catholic religion, and they became like the Christian, which is almost still one and the same. But then just the idea of religion didn't. It was just like not for me. But my mom, I used to call her crazy because she would get like psychic readings done when she was like when I was growing up, and like, and then she actually is very intuitive, and then so she started to get into like healing and energy work and Reiki and like giving people readings and all of this stuff and then as I got older, got stronger with her. And then I just started like in my 20s listening to like psychic radio, and I love listening to people getting readings and like listening to past life regressions, and I just like the fun stuff, right? Like I think spirituality is way deeper than just the fun stuff, but the fun stuff is still fun. Like I love like the past lives and all this stuff is just so cool, and I still get readings all the time, and then I loved it. And then I met my buddy James, and James was very much into like Reiki and like getting readings done. And then so when him and I started working together, we started talking a lot about that. And then we also met Jim, who you know.
Mhm.
And then over time, like after a couple of years of knowing Jim, he introduced me to DX, his brother-in-law, who's the shaman. And I started working with DX almost 8 or 9 years ago.
Wow.
And then I introduced James to him, and then Catherine, and all these other people from there. And I think that sort of took my spiritual journey to a different level where spirituality went from more of it was, and I was also into personal development. Like James got me to go to like Landmark and all these other things where you just really start to question like or an understanding how humans attach meaning to things and like different perspectives. And you just really start to understand how humans form their version of reality. And I was just like drawn into that stuff. But then when I met DX, that was sort of the transition from spirituality being like this fun thing of readings and past life regressions
Mhm.
to like the deep work, which also is very similar to just therapy
Mhm.
and psychology, because shamanism is and Toltec wisdom is a lot of what comes along with working with DX. But shamanism is the root of psychology and a lot of modalities in therapy, because it is the root of like how humans form their versions of reality and pain and depression. So anyways, when you start working with him, I started to get into the root, like deeper to doing the work of like learning more about yourself, learning the dark sides about yourself you didn't see, stepping into more awareness, then doing the work to understand that and to heal those things. And it's been like spirituality has been a big healing journey, I think, over the last 8 to 9 years, and like an awakening of understanding how things work. I'm not saying I understand how things work, but I have a deeper understanding of how things work than I did 8 or 9 years ago, which I still think is, obviously still scratching the surface, but that took it to sort of a different level. And then now my work has been intertwined with a lot of that as well. So that was kind of my journey into all of this.
That's so beautiful. I love that. And how's that working with DX looks like? Because so many people don't really understand about shamanism. There are many people out there think that is like dark, you know.
Yeah. I mean, so shamanism, it's sort of like in basic terms is sort of like a shaman would be, if you looked it up, is like the bridge between the physical world and the spirit world. And that's sort of what a shaman is. But shamanism, like obviously is that as well. But I feel like shamanism is the root of psychology. It's the root
Yes.
of how a lot of like therapies, and it's like how humans form their versions of themselves, or how they start to wear a lot of masks that you don't realize you're wearing.
Yeah.
And what shamanism is like, in working with a shaman, is it brings so much awareness to, you have this mask that came from this thing that's causing these issues in your life. You want to continue
Yes.
wearing the mask, and it's like healing yourself so that you can remove that mask, only to find you have 5 more that you got to get rid of too. And so it's like a never ending journey
No.
of
Yes.
exploring who you are, and then doing the work to become a better version of yourself, which all of it leads to higher frequencies. It leads to more peace. And it can unlock a lot of things, like more ego, like, oh, I became aware of this and therefore I'm better. And it's like, well, you're really not, because now you just lowered yourself again, because now you're just have this ego and you're like
Yes.
comparing yourself to other people. And so, it's this whole journey of like really understanding the masks that you wear and the things that you don't see, to get you to a place where you are just evolving
Yeah.
and growing. And so that's why that's what I think shamanism is. And what I love about it too is it's been around for thousands of years. And
Yeah.
like Toltec wisdom is like heavily integrated. Like the Four Agreements is a very basic version of like Toltec wisdom,
Right.
and most people
Mhm.
don't know that. It's like
Yes.
it's teachings that have been around for thousands and thousands of years. And so like people will be like, well, why are DX's teachings so powerful? I'm like, half the time they're not even DX's teachings. They're teachings that
Right.
have been around for a really long time. And maybe he might put his own spin or his own way of explaining it. But I'm like, these are deep rooted wisdoms and teachings that have been around way before the Bible, way before religion, way before, like, to the root of like humanity. And that's why I think sometimes it can get people perceive it as dark, because it challenges or threatens things like their religion
Right.
or stuff like that. Or sometimes, like, what you have to learn is you embrace the things that suck. Like, you can go through a really hard time, like a divorce, which,
Mm.
like, on the surface level is a very hard, painful experience for everyone involved, where people do try to hurt each other or could screw each other over. When you really truly understand that there's beauty in it all, and you
Mhm.
look at this thing on the surface that looks very like nasty and mean and disgusting and like hard and painful, and you go like, there's beauty in that, people be like, there's something wrong with you.
Yes.
And it's like, no, it's like,
Mhm.
I get the beauty in things being destroyed, so something more amazing can come through, so that people can learn their lessons, so that they can actually grow.
Mhm.
And that's the thing, is people don't want to go through hard times in order to grow. And like, this spiritual path really encourages you to like embrace the suck, because it's going to like lead to so much beauty on the other side. But I think people can perceive that as dark or not great
Yeah.
or bad, and it's not, when you truly get it.
Right. It's because it doesn't fit into their reality. They still living in the same reality where they have known forever. And shamanism is something that it's just not familiar for many people.
Right.
And that's why I get so many questions uh, that how do you like how that looks like to you to work with the shaman, and I'm like, how can I explain this? It's very challenging to explain that to people that don't know.
It is, because there's a lot that goes underneath the surface that people won't get until you experience it.
Mm-hmm.
On the surface level, what it looks like to work with a shaman is that there are teachings that you read and there's candles that you burn. And
Yeah.
that's like it. That's like the extent of it. Or like, sometimes we'll have like a retreat a few times a year where we'll meditate for an hour each day. And then
Mm-hmm.
he'll like talk to us for a couple hours, like,
Mm-hmm.
that's on the surface level. That's it. That's all that's really involved in it. There's nothing more than that. There's nothing less than that. At least
Mm-hmm.
that's been my experience of it
Yes.
so far. But where the real work is when you like wake up in the morning, you had this like crazy effing dream, and you're like, what was that? And you meditate on
Mm-hmm.
it, and then you have these awarenesses. Or there have been times where I wake up and I just have understand. Here's how I would describe it. The only way we truly know something is by living that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like riding a bike. You read a book on riding a bike, you don't know how to do it until you
Right.
actually do it. And then when you do it, you have this knowing that you don't need to reread the book a million times. You just get back on the bike and you just do it because you have this knowing and understanding, and you'll never forget how to ride a bike. There's just a knowing inside of you now. But the only way to get that knowing was because I had to go through that experience of riding the bike. There are times when I wake up in the morning and I have knowings of things that I didn't experience here in this physical world. Like this idea that everything is made up by humans at one point and we're just controlled by it all. Like we don't even question it. Meaning, like, you drive down the street and it says the speed limit's 45, and it's like, okay, someone decided it's 45. We decided as a society we need to follow the signs. No, you don't. You can go 100 miles an hour down the road if you really wanted to. But you might going to get a ticket because that's the rule of society. But the understanding that someone made that up at some point, and then you start realizing, why can't I make up stuff?
Yeah.
Like, why can't I be the one? Like the same thing with like therapy,
Mm.
or like someone discovered this thing called anxiety. Like people just create stuff and discover stuff all the time, and then those become norms. Like the idea of that. Like I
Mhm.
remember one time I woke up from a dream and I just understood that. Or
Yeah.
I remember times I get very silent and I just walk down the path and I'll see an owl fly by. And then I get a download of this most amazing, profound thing that I then talk about on the podcast, and turns out to be one of my biggest podcast episodes ever. You know what I mean? It's like,
Yeah.
that's the beauty in working with a shaman, is I feel like it unlocks, if you do the work, it unlocks deeper understandings that live within inside you that are silent, that get awakened. And
Yes.
you see the world differently. It opens up you perceive more. And I could go on and on about it, but I think
Yes.
that that's like a very simple way to sort of describe it.
Right. It just reminds me of my download last night before I go to bed. I I received this. It says, "As I give, so I receive. As I receive, so I give." And I was like, "Whoa, that is like hermetic
Hmm.
teaching."
Yeah, yeah, I love that. And
Uh,
and the thing is, on the surface level, it sounds so simple.
right.
I give and I receive, and there's a bounce, and there's Eine, and there's like
Yes.
this thing, and it is so much deeper, because what's going to happen, like at least what's happening for me, when I heard you say that, I heard like I give and then I receive. And then I remember my instant thought was like, oh, in this certain area of my life, I'm just wanting to receive. I haven't been giving.
Mhm.
And it's going to hit everyone so differently.
Yes.
And that's why I love this sort of thing, is because it's just
Yeah.
going to land with people so differently on different levels of depth. But that's the sort of thing, is you get these messages like that all the time. And it's like,
Right. Yeah.
it's really powerful.
Yeah, there is another message that I received that finally clicked to me. Just a couple days ago, it says that when you feel resonate with someone, it's not that you resonate with their story, but their resonance. And I heard about resonance all the time, but it didn't click to me until a couple days ago about the resonance, about that person's energy,
Mm,
like who they are being in that moment. And I was like, huh, it finally clicked to me.
yeah.
So we can share, people can share a lot about the same story that we also experience, but only few of them that can touch us,
Yeah.
and yeah, it hit me good at that moment. I was like, wow, I finally, well, at least I come to deeper understanding about that.
And I think, and then just even in that, it's like, I feel like work with the shaman feels a lot like you get the messages that you need when you need them.
Yeah.
And I do believe and I also do believe you don't need to work with a shaman for that to happen. But I do think the idea of working with a shaman sort of embraces that there are more around, and
Mhm.
ways of operating that are beyond what we physically can perceive. And so, like,
Yes.
even if you're not working with a shaman, it's like being more in touch with your guides or angels, or like having altars for different angels, and like establishing a connection. Like, you don't need a shaman to be able to do that, and you can receive the messages and like set the intention of like, I want a deeper connection to something beyond me, and to
Mhm.
have the guidance and to receive messages when I need them. And
Right.
but it does feel like the more that you work with, the more I've worked with DX, the more that stuff sort of
Yeah.
happens a lot.
Yeah, for sure. I see him as the example that he always said that as I can do, you can do as well. So
Yeah.
it's really give me an example that as a human being who come here to experience this all, that we can experience whatever that DX experience, like he's shown us that, hey, you are powerful, use it.
Yeah.
That's what I see it. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's what it's been too, is just stepping more into more of your power,
Yeah.
which a lot of people don't realize they've lost through
Right.
their life, you know?
Yes.
And so I think now that we talk about it, I think that's really what it is just stepping more, because that's what everything is, like the personal growth and the
Mhm.
removing of masks and the going deeper. Every time that happens, what's really happening is you're gaining more of your power back,
Yeah.
more of your personal power. And so I think that's what it is a big giant journey of gaining more of your personal power.
Absolutely. In the beginning of your spiritual journey, how's that look like to you? Like, do you know, or you were in it called awakening, or you just like basically just swimming into it? You just know.
I don't think there was a big moment where I had this
Yeah.
giant awakening. It wasn't like I was in a car accident, had a near death experience, or just like life was so awful that I'm like, I need to find something beyond myself. I think I just, even as a kid, not even as a kid, like, well, I maybe as a kid, because there were times where I would remember like I would be watching TV for like hours, and then I would feel really sick. I'll be like, I just don't feel good. And I would just go outside and I would like lay in the grass and like let the sun hit me. And what I was doing was like grounding myself and reconnecting back to Mother Earth.
Mhm.
So I think there was always this element of just knowing and understanding, but I wasn't actively seeking anything. And then as I became older, like in high school and stuff, I was actively seeking like the surface level stuff, like psychic readings. And then that expanded into more stuff because I was just very curious. And so that I think that curiosity just deepened over the years and continues to do that. And so there was that side of it. And then I think once I started working with DX, and then also at the same time doing things like Landmark or taking different courses on personal development, that's when it became like a serious thing. Like it became a part of my life. Like it became a big part of what I want to do and how I want to help people. And honestly, it just brought me so much peace. Like I just felt every time I do more and more of the work, I just feel better and like
Yeah.
more confident.
Yeah. And the result of that, your business skyrocket.
It did. Yeah. I remember when I first met DX, I remember asking him on the very first time I talked to him, I was like, when is the money going to come? He's like, don't worry about the money. The money will come. And it did. Like my business exploded after working with him. And I just be very clear about something. Like I don't think that DX is responsible for my business taking off. Like I did that. I did the work, I did all the stuff. And I don't think anything in your life is really dependent on someone else being in that life. I even asked him one time, I was like, if I stopped working with you, like, is my business going to die? And he goes, well, if I told you that answer, then you can't stop working with me. So he's like, in ways of saying, he's like, like, that's just a part of your dharma, is like to be doing this work and to be like, you're not supposed to have like money problems and all these things. But what he did do, because he, just like any good mentor and anyone who's successful would tell you, I wouldn't have been here without my mentors. Like I
Yeah.
wouldn't have been able to do it without the support, without the mentors, without the guidance. And that's what he has been to me. But through the work that I've done, what it's done is it's unlocked understandings
Mhm.
that I now get, that I then teach, that people come in for. So like my very first big, huge moment. And to be honest with you, I had like a multiple six-figure business by the time I was already working with DX. Like I was already like, but I was
Yeah.
teaching like Facebook ads and YouTube marketing and things like that. But then when I finally discovered the idea of, we called it the video forex effect back then, of my very first like $1 million idea in business, came when I really embraced sitting in the silence. Like
Mhm.
DX taught me about sitting in the silence and what that meant. And so I started
Mhm.
to use this thing that he was talking about. And after 3 months of doing it, I was gifted this beautiful idea. I don't know where it came from. It just was when 1 second was just in my head.
Yeah.
And then within 9 months, we did $1 million. But I was only able to access that because of the tool that he taught
Yeah.
me.
Mhm.
And so that's the sort of things, is like this beautiful mentor and guide just
Right.
sort of gives you the tools that you need so that you can go out and create
Right.
this business and these things that you want. And
Yeah.
so that's when things really started to explode, is when I started to embrace a lot of his teachings into my life, because it allowed whatever needed to come in to come in.
Yes.
So hopefully that makes sense.
Right. You've gained your personal power back,
Yeah.
where before it was so much focused on the outside.
Right.
And since you focus on the inside, then
Right.
everything go up. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even simple things like make sure you have the right intention, because he was talking about a lot about it. It's like your guys' dharma and who you are. Like, there are people whose intention is just to make money, and they'll go and make money. But if your
Mhm.
intention is just to make money, no matter how many people you screw over and blah 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 blah, it's like it's not going to work for you, because that isn't who you are.
Yeah.
He's like, but if your intention is to show up and serve, and that's the main intention first, you will always make money.
Right.
And so, like, again, like simple little things like that
Mhm.
always helped me become more successful.
Yeah. And that's very simple. It's very basic, but create huge impact.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. So this just came through while you're speaking. This is outside of your business. I'm curious, how is your relationship with ex-wife? Because I see a lot of divorced people. They are really mean to each other.
Yeah.
And this is just my personal experience where the ex-wife being mean, like speaking up in the Facebook, talking about their ex-husbands, all that, and it really hurtful things. And I see also a lot of women think that men easy to move on, men don't get their feelings sad, they don't bother all those things, but I see is very different. I see men also cry behind closed door. It's still hurt. Hurt is hurt. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
that you are man or woman. So
Right.
how's that relationship with you?
I mean, this is a loaded question, and it's still pretty
Heavy?
new,
Okay.
heavy and new. And I still get teary eyed about it. Like, even right now, I could just
Yeah.
feel the emotions coming in, and it's hard, because it's like this is a new thing, right? So like we went through started the divorce process over a year ago, but like it was really interesting because we didn't tell the kids for a long time. And so we still lived together. And so we lived together while we were getting divorced. And that was really hard, because the situation that we had was, I genuinely believe that we both still loved each other while we were getting divorced. And it was really hard to accept the fact that, like, love isn't enough, because it's not. Like, love isn't enough, because these like deep rooted conditionings or traumas that you have, they will overpower everything. And unless you're willing to do the work, those will run the show, even if you love the person. And so for me, I had to make the decision that, like, I can't be in this environment anymore, even though I do genuinely love and care about this woman.
Yeah.
And I probably always will. Like, I will have a love and care for her probably for the rest of my life, because it's the mother of my kids. It's someone who I'm 41. I spent 25 years of my life with her. So when we got divorced, like, more than half of my life was spent with her.
Mm.
And so that's always going to leave an impact on me. And there was a lot of beauty, and there was a lot of things I loved about our relationship. Like, we always had a lot of fun together, like, always.
Mhm.
Like, so even when we lived together over the summer, like, we would still go on vacations with the kids, and was like, why are we getting divorced? Like, we're getting along great. Like,
Yeah.
we would even hold hands and hug and like kiss, and like, we're
Mhm.
getting divorced. So it was like this very weird period where that love was still there.
Mm.
And then we ended up moving back from Arizona back to California. And then that's when things, like, I was just like then it was like, there's talks of reconciling,
Mhm.
and maybe we could, like, go back to therapy and to do all these things. And then you would be like, yeah, okay, let's try that, because, like, obviously we still have feelings for each other. And then when you get to the point where it's like, oh no, the old patterns are still here. And like, and then I started to get physically sick because I couldn't be who I was.
Yeah.
And like, I just, and I don't want to get into the details, but it was just like, there was just a lot of things that I just, it feels like when you're walking on eggshells and you want to be who you are and you can't, like that took a physical toll on me, and I was actually getting physically sick. Like
Yeah.
I would like there was lab reports coming back saying you're pre-diabetic, and then this is happening and this is happening. I'm like, I was just sick inside of my body because there was just this side of me of who I am that I couldn't be. I couldn't authentically be that in the relationship. So then that's when we split. So that part of like actually splitting, I don't know, it's been maybe 10 months, 11, like it hasn't been even a year yet. So this whole thing is new. The relationship with her is very hot and cold. So it's like there could be silence and we're getting along fine. And then like one little thing can cause like a big riff.
Mhm.
So is our relationship as co-parents where I would like it to be? No. But am I proud of how I show up and continue to show up and have showed up for her and to her and how I've treated her regardless of all the things that have happened?
Mhm.
100%. And I think that's one of the best pieces of advice that I got from James, which is like, he said, the only thing is just remember that you want to look back and be like, I'm proud of how I showed up because that's what happened to me in my divorce. And I'm just really proud of how I showed up. And I am really proud of how I showed up, how I continue to show up. And obviously I have these little moments of like getting angry or how could she say that? Or like, no, that's not right. And I want to be right, And so I have these little moments. And so I will also say that a lot of the things that have happened have not, even after divorce, felt great for me. And I'm a little surprised that there are certain things that have happened the way that they did, but I'm really proud of how I have been able to take those and grow from those and how I respond to those. And
Mhm.
it definitely has not been easy. And I think there's been a lot of pain on both sides. And I'm just sort of looking forward to the day where we can get to a point where the pain is a little bit less and we can
Yeah.
start to rebuild and grow a new relationship. Because that's the thing that's a little funky with divorces with kids is like you divorce and you're like, okay, I'm free of this. And it's like, no, you're not. You still have this relationship with this person
Yeah.
because of the kiddos.
Yeah.
And so I actually really do look forward to being able to build um, a very nice co-parenting friendship with her.
Yeah.
Um, because like, again, I just, I care. I want her
Yeah.
to be happy and I do care about her. I'm like, I'm not in love with her, but like, I
Yeah.
care about her as like someone
Right.
who I spent 25 of my years life with and is the mother of my kids. Like I always
Mhm.
want her to be happy and taken care of and treated right. And if like she ever dated someone and they treated her terrible, like it would really bother me,
Yeah.
So like,
Mhm.
so I look forward to the relationship that we do build when I think the pain of the divorce sort of settles down a little bit. So we'll
Yeah.
see. We're still in this like little weird area of figuring out the dynamic, I think.
Yeah. But it's very normal. It's the transition from being with that person for so long. There are so many attachments, or there are so many meanings that attach to that. And now just releasing that glue,
Yeah.
it's a work.
It is. And it's like,
Mhm.
and I'm dating someone now and that was very unexpected too, because I had this intention of I don't want to date or be in this was so hard. I don't want to hop into another relationship. And then I just like bumped into this woman and at a school event. And then my little daughter basically just went as soon as we got to that, went right up to her and was just like, that's my dad over there. And my parents don't live together anymore. And then like walked away. And I was like, why did you do that? Like, out of all the people, you walked up with this one person, and then she happened to be divorced. And then
Oh,
I didn't
wow.
think anything of it. And then after the events, my daughter went up to her and started playing hula hoop. And so like people started to leave, and she's like doing hula hoop with my little one. And then so I went up to my little one. I was like, okay, we got to go. And I started talking to her a little bit and found out she was divorced. And I was like, I don't know. Like, maybe I just need some fun in my life. This won't go anywhere. This is not going to go anywhere. Like, I'll just go on a date. Like, why not? Like,
Yeah.
that's one time. And then we went on a date, and then it was just a walk. Let's just go for a walk. And then we just talked and talked and talked and talked and
Wow.
talked and talked. And then it was like the sun was setting. I was like, should we go get dinner? And she's like, yeah, let's go get dinner. And then we talked and talked and talked and talked. And then And then on the way, was dropping her back off at her house. And then on the way back, I was like, should we go on a second date? And she's like, yeah, I think that would be really, like, we definitely need to do that. And I was like, okay. And then we just kept talking. And like every night we would text for hours. And then we went on this one date. I remember our third date, we went to Santa Barbara, and I picked her up in the morning, and we were together for 12 hours. And it was just, we just talked for 12 hours straight. And it's been a very healing thing for me to like be able to see what like being with someone else, and like how do they show up and how do they treat you, and like what it feels like to not have to be on edge and like hide who I am, or to like be careful that I'm gonna, like, there's this level of maturity that is so comforting and healing for me. But also at the same time, it was very interesting because like I don't want to repeat because I want to be very clear. The reason why we're divorced isn't just because of my ex-wife. It's also because of the patterns that I've had, like, and so I started to, now in this new relationship, I'm now recognizing like, okay, like if I want a high quality person, I also need to be a high quality person, which means this person won't deal with these patterns that I did have over here, over here. And then I'm becoming aware of patterns that I realized I didn't have, that I'm now like fixing or growing from. And that's what I want. I want that relationship where you can become aware of stuff. They can talk about it maturely and calmly. And then you work, and then they do the work, and you like grow together. It's like this beautiful relationship. And so that's been very like healing for me. But at the same time, also like pretty awareness raising, and like some of the patterns I have in relationships that I didn't realize. And so there was a part of me, it's like, oh man, I'm back to growing again. Like, I just want a break, like, can I just squeeze up a break? I'm so tired of having to grow all the time. But that was a very unexpected sort of thing. And then it was, it was only like maybe 3 months after I divorced. And there was a part of me, it's like, is this too soon? Is this, and I just really got in tune with my body on like, does it feel right? Does it feel good? Does it like, is there joy? Is it easy? And it's like, well, if those are what you're feeling, then just, and like, also, are you doing this to escape the pain? And it was like, well, it does feel nice to not be in pain, but I know my intention isn't to be in this, like, so that I don't feel pain. It's, I'm in this because like, I'm just really connecting with this person, and I'm like healing from this. And I'm, and so that was like really hard in the beginning. And now we're, I don't know, 6 or 7 months into it, and it's been pretty good.
Yeah. I love that you say that you're just tune in with your body, because that's really it. Like how you ask, you seek for the answer, go within. And I think not many people do that, because I see a lot of people, when they are so much in their head, they ask outside of them. They ask whoever. They didn't ask themselves. And I love that you share that you ask your body, is this feel right?
Well, it even goes back to like what we were talking about earlier in the podcast too, because her and I did talk about this. Like, is this too soon for you? And like, and it was a little bit outside of our control, because I didn't want to introduce my kids to this, to like a significant other. And this is something my ex-wife and I talked about. I was like, let's, like, if we're going to date, let's wait a year of dating this person before we introduce into the kids. But because of like certain things that had happened, and again, I'm not going to get into the weeds of who did what and who said what, but like the kids became aware that like she was dating someone, and then slowly became aware I was, like, her kids became aware of who it was. And then like, so like people started to find out. And then I'm like, we have to tell the kids, because my kids are just going to find out on the playground. Because then there's like drama at the school, then like mom's talking about this and that, and like kids finding out. And it was like, oh, man. So I had to tell the kids. So we had a lot of these conversations of like, is this okay? Is this too soon? How do we deal with this with the kids? Because now it's out of our control. And like, do we really want to do this? Because we're only a couple months into this thing. And so we did. And then a big part of that conversation was how much of our fears and worries and concerns of this being too soon come from society norms and everyone else's opinion versus what actually feels good to us and in our bodies. And even to even have that conversation was so refreshing to me, to have that level of conversation with a partner, and we realized like, no, this, like, I don't feel like I'm doing this as an escape. And I don't, like, I genuinely like want to learn about you and connect. And like, I just, I want to explore this. And I think like a lot of the fear and worry and concerns came from like what other people were going to think, and also
Yeah.
what a society norm is on when you should date after divorce. And
Yeah.
so when you strip down these like societal norms that people have and you get more in touch with you and what you want, I think it leads to better decisions.
Hmm. Wow. So, how is the transition from living in Arizona and to California treat you?
So far, so good. I mean, when you take away the surface level things, like it's more expensive
Yeah,
and it's more crowded, and so
the
I think it's,
land itself.
yeah, and so I think it's been really easy and good, and part of the reason why is because I'm back where I grew up, and I'm back to where I was living before I left. Like I'm in the same town, the same area. My family's here, so
So
it's
you are
very,
back home.
yeah. So it's very familiar,
I see.
but also where I live specifically is very powerful spiritual lands, like where the Native Americans and Chumash tribes lived. And so, like,
Mm.
when I left, there was a part of me that didn't want to leave because I felt so connected to the land, and like I
Mhm.
could see things, and I would hike to where the Native Americans would have like their vision quests, and I would go
Mhm.
there and meditate, and then I ended up landing in a house here where it's like there were Chumash tribes living right here, and then like there's land here that's not being built on, and of course it's like it's a park or whatever, but it's like I'm like no, like energetically this is land that cannot be built on. Like
Mhm.
this is sick, and I'll go hikes at night, and I'm like I'll walk into the land, and I'll be like nope, I'm not invited to walk right now. I can feel it, like there's
Yes.
something going on,
Mhm.
and then I walk in and I recognize like I have to ask for permission to be able to walk onto this land right now. And so
Mhm.
like it's very like the ground is very spiritual. So I feel like I'm in this like little bubble that feels really great. And so the transition from that perspective has been really good. But it's also been great because my kids like they already have friends here. They're back in school with people they went to school with a few years ago. So it's just been a very easy transition. Um, but I think when my kids turn 18, I probably will not be in California. Probably. I'll probably be somewhere else, I think.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Nice. So, what is that one piece of advice that you go back over and over?
Wow, that's a good question. I think too, I always just hear remember who you are. And I know it's something
Mhm.
DX always says. But again, this isn't, even though DX says it, that isn't a DX teaching. It is like a teaching that's been around for a long time. Like I think anyone, any therapist, anyone in the personal development realm, like the goal is to get people to remember who they were before their traumas. Like when you were born as a baby, like you didn't come in with these things, it beliefs and traumas and defense mechanisms and like whatever. You came in as like pure essence of just empty slate. And I think a lot of what therapy should be doing is and self development should be doing is getting you to remember who you were before all of that conditioning and traumas and whatever. And so for me, I always just remember that, like remember who you are. And I was telling you before this that we started recording that I just recorded a podcast episode. And I started crying afterwards because I'm like, this is who I am. Like this wasn't even me talking. This was just me downloading stuff. And it was like I just went with it. I'm like, I don't even know where half the stuff came from. I'm like, this is who I am, like this vessel. And I started crying because it was like so healing for me. So I remember that. That's a big piece of advice. And then the silence, like answers always
Mhm.
come in the silence. And that one has been really a big one. And it's just like, again, it's like you can call it very basic, but you hear it all the time. But it's
Yeah.
like there's like hearing it and then there's mastering it. And so I think those are the two biggest pieces of advice that have really had a biggest impact on me in the work that I do.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that about silence because it's so powerful. I was born and raised in the jungle, like in a small
Mm,
village inside the jungle where there's no TV, nothing,
yeah.
there's no outside world but what I have back then. And I was that kid that always loved to be alone, always just loved being in silence. And I I have my imaginary friends. I have all this. Uh, I hear a lot of things, all those good stuff. And when
Mm,
I share this to people, that no, they think that I'm I'm just thinking too much. And so
Right.
when I moved to the US, yeah, and when I moved to the US, I was wondering like where all these my friends, like where they go, because I didn't have that. I didn't connect with myself, so I wasn't able to connect to the beings.
Right.
And when I finally met DX, I learned again to connect with myself in the silence, and that's where all the things coming back again. And
Right.
I love that when you said about silence. It's so powerful.
Yeah, I feel like actually now that you say that, I kind of think those two things go together. Like remember
Mm.
who you are, but one way to get back to that is like being in the silence more. And so I didn't realize they were even connected until you just told that story. So I love that.
Oh wow.
Like I knew they were like if I would have sat down, but when I came up with both of those things and saw them, I didn't realize they were, I saw them as two separate things, but they're actually one and the same.
Yeah. Yeah. Last question,
Sure.
Brandon.
Yeah.
If you could give one piece of advice to your younger self, what would that be?
Mm. Um, I don't know. Like that's such, I mean, there's like so much that I know now that I think would be helpful. I think the advice that I would give is stop thinking you're always right and operate with more love.
Mm.
And I think for a lot of years I had this ego of like wanting to be better than people and always think I'm right, which obviously comes from an insecurity, which came from a lack of love, self love. And I think there's a lot of reasons why my divorce happened, but I think a lot of the dynamics from at least on my end that led to it was because of a lack of self love in myself. And that allowed a lot of things to happen or me to deal with things or to show up in certain ways and not maintain things like different boundaries or having hard conversations or also doing things that were hurtful to my ex-wife. And I think there were ways that even showed up with my kids and stuff. Even today, like I think it's still a journey where I'm like,
Yeah.
dealing with that, where I'm not totally happy with how I showed up. But then again, it's all learning experiences and stuff. But I think that what I've always wanted was like this beautiful partnership where people were always connected and relationships like that, even outside of a marriage or a romantic partnership, but friendships and relationships with my team members and things like that. And I think the deeper the relationship and the more connected you are comes from a direct result of loving yourself more.
Mm.
And the need to be right and the need to like be better than people also comes from insecurities, which also comes from a lack of love. And I think a lot of people talk about like, I want more love in the world and like, I want to impact people's lives, but you can only do so with what you have. And if
Yeah.
you don't have a lot of love or love of yourself, you can only love someone to the level you love yourself. And I
Yeah.
did not understand that. And I think, part of the reason why the divorce also happened was because like I started to love myself more and heal myself. And I started to just like not be okay with certain things anymore. And,
Mm-mm.
and, stuff like that. And I'm just on this journey of wanting to show up for people, humanity in a bigger, better way. And that
Yeah.
starts with more self love, which allows me to give more love to people. And I didn't really understand that for a long time. And I think that if I understood that as a kid, there would be a lot more healthy dynamics in my life that I am now like fixing that I wouldn't have to fix. But
Mm.
again, it's all about timing. It's like everything happens in the right way, in the right time. The lessons come when you need them, as they need
Absolutely.
them. And so I
Yeah.
don't live in this regret, but
Yeah.
it'd be pretty wonderful if I knew that, knew that as a kid.
Wow. It's so powerful what you said. I feel it. My whole body felt it. Thank you so much for everything that you have shared and your openness. And I think, not that I think, I know this is going to be so helpful for anyone that going through very similar situation as you, even if they don't go through any divorce or breakup with their partners. We can always learn
Yeah.
from other people experience.
Yeah. Well, because I think the lessons that we talk about and the things that we talked about, although like for me, a lot of it came from a divorce, the lessons are relatable and relevant to all areas of life. It's
Yeah.
just the context in which we're talking about happen to be divorce, but the same concepts of what we're talking about is going to be true in any friendship, relationship, or operating life, no matter what it is.
Yeah. And it remind me to my dream about we watch the TV and you watch that TV. I watch the TV, but we see it differently.
Yeah.
It's all matter of our perception.
Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Brandon, thank you so much for this space that you created. I am honored. I'm deeply grateful. I would love to have you back very soon.
Anytime. You just let me know, send me a message, and we'll make it happen.
Thank you.
Of course.
You have a great day.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. Bye.